Hello there, Slamscape here. Today, we're diving into the challenge of building your very first colony in the Trailblazers beta update for Elite Dangerous. Colonization is your chance to claim an uncharted system and mold it into your very own empire. Since colonization is complex and still in beta, this guide is a work in progress, but I'll do my best to start you on your journey to transform a lonely star system into a thriving, bustling colony. Along the way, I'll share some tips and tricks that I've learned so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If I miss anything, feel free to ask in the comments. Grab your biggest cargo hauler, gear up, and let's kick off your journey as Elite's next great space architect. So, you've decided you want to shape your very own colony and aren't sure how to start. Well, I've already got you covered with a full guide, Colonization First Steps, that breaks down what's needed to make your very first claim. I'll drop a link to the complete guide in the description, but for now, let me hit you with the highlights. Head to the colonization contact in a starport 15 light years from your desired colony. Pick your system and set up the initial primary port, whether it's a starport, outpost, or asteroid base. If you view the system before you set up the primary port, the location of your first port will be shown as a flag instead of a plus symbol. Travel to your system and deploy the colonization beacon. You will now have 28 days to complete your first starport, or you will lose your claim to the system. Building your first starport can be a daunting task, especially solo. The outposts require around 22,000 commodities, the Coriolis and asteroid base around 71,000, and the Oculus and Orbis bases require a whopping 253,000 commodities. Note that these initial port commodity requirements are higher than if you build these facilities in an existing colony. The commodities come from different system economies and base types. For instance, CMM composites are only manufactured at surface port refineries. Planning out where and how to get each commodity is an important step in not burning out hauling all that cargo. There are a few different methods you can use to acquire the needed commodities for your space station. The most convenient method is utilizing the Trailblazer Megaships deployed around the bubble. They are currently located at HIP 90578, Oregon, Bletty, 34 Omicron Cephi, Clickus, Nagobi, and Minerva. Although these locations may change, check the Galnet for updates. The Trailblazer Megaships are convenient because they carry all the required commodities for colonization in one location. However, there are a few caveats. Since they are in the bubble, there may be no megaships within close range to your colony. The nearest one to my current colony is at 184 light years, which would require many jumps per cargo load. This can be alleviated by using a fleet carrier if you have one, but that also depends if the Trailblazer systems or nearby systems have an available fleet carrier slot to jump into. This can also be inefficient because you need to deliver commodities first to your fleet carrier, jump it, then redeliver those commodities to your colonization ship, effectively doubling the amount of trips. The other method involves utilizing third-party tools like Inara to locate markets nearby that have the commodities you need. It is more flexible and should cut down on jump times, since you are looking for ports near your colony. This method still works for commanders that plan to utilize their fleet carrier. It does require more effort in planning, but there are some tricks to cut down on the work. All the starting colony stations use the same type of commodities, although in differing amounts. Most of the commodities are produced by refinery economies, so you should be able to group your searches and cut down on the number of ports to visit. For the refinery materials, you should be able to find a well-stocked station with aluminum, copper, insulating membrane, liquid oxygen, polymers, semiconductors, steel, superconductors, and titanium. Refinery ground stations should have both ceramic composites and CMM composite. You should be able to find an industrial station stocking computer components, food cartridges, power generators, and water purifiers. Fruits and vegetables and water can be found at agricultural ports, although you generally need less than a full cargo load of these, so you will have more options to choose from. The same goes for medical diagnostic equipment and non-lethal weapons, which are found in high-tech systems. For the surface refinery ports, for CMM composite and the like, getting in and out of the gravity well can add a lot of travel time. There is a nice trick you can utilize if you have access to a fleet carrier, but it requires you to have at least 2 cargo ships. What you do is go to the ground port of your choosing and call your second cargo ship to that location. Fill up your hold with your needed commodity, then deliver them to the colonization ship as normal. Once you finish delivery, head to your fleet carrier, disembark, and go to an escape pod. This will instantly return you to the ground port where your previously transferred ship should now be located. Now, transfer your first cargo ship, which is currently located at your carrier. Then load up and repeat. You've now cut your travel time in half. It's important to note that you should check your port's commodity requirements from the colonization ship or the galaxy map, as there is some discrepancy between the deploy page and the actual requirements. I suspect it's dependent on some factors unique to each system we just aren't privy to. Just know that you can only deliver the exact commodity amounts to your build project. Any extra will have to be stored on a fleet carrier, sold elsewhere, or jettisoned. I personally make a full list of commodities I need and system locations before I even start hauling. Once your primary port is completed, it will become partially operational with limited station facilities. Provided there are no server issues, the station will become completely operational during the weekly reset on Thursday. The completion of the primary port also adds 3 other factions to the system. These factions are based on the system the initial claim was made from, and are chosen based on the second faction in that system, the faction associated with the Architect Squadron, and a random Anarchy faction from the claiming system. Now that your primary port has been constructed, you can begin to further colonize your system. There are a lot of potential options to consider when building new stations, outposts, installations, and settlements. Now is the time to start to think about what kind of system you want to have. Do you want a lawless anarchy colony that exports lots of ore? Do you want a high population, high-tech system with very good outfitting? Or are you just going to pick things at random? I can't really answer that question for you, but I can try and show you how to achieve your goals. Each of the many different types of facilities available have several positive and negative modifiers which influence various factors including economy, initial population increase, max population increase, security, wealth, tech level, standard of living, and development level. There is no clear explanation in game what each of these modifiers do for your colony, but we can try to make some educated guesses. However, a lot more testing will be necessary. Due to the time-consuming nature of colonization and the fact that Frontier is continuing to make tweaks, it may be some time before we know all these things for sure. Let's take a look at the economy modifier first. Existing systems in Elite generally have a primary and a secondary economy type. The main ones are agriculture, colony, extraction, high-tech, industrial, military, refinery, and tourism. Without going into great detail, these economies on a broad scale determine what kinds of imports and exports a given system will have. It is a little more complicated, as individual ports can also have their own economies as well. Although I believe if, say, for instance, you have an extraction economy, stations that have extraction commodities will have a higher supply and better prices. Population size also has an effect on those as well. So, what does that mean for your colony? If you want a certain type of primary and secondary economy, you will need to make sure you have more of those types of facilities constructed. Higher tier space and planetary facilities should have more of an influence, although the exact amounts are currently being investigated and seem to vary depending on unknown factors. Each port, installation, or settlement you build will list either the facility economy and/or the economy influence before you place it. As it stands right now, spaceport economies are only influenced by planetary settlements that the spaceport is currently orbiting, and also any supporting orbital installations around the same planet. For example, if you built a civilian outpost above an ice planet, only settlements on that ice planet will affect the market of the civilian outpost. This only works if the spaceport is in the slot closest to the planet or moon. The understanding of how port economies are influenced is very much in flux and will probably require an entire video on this topic alone. For now, I will say if you want to have a station with a certain economy type, try to stick to building support facilities based on that type. For example, if you want an outpost to sell industrial materials, build settlements and installations of the industrial type on the orbited planet/moon. This may change as the community is pushing to make the economic influence easier to direct. I'll post a link to the current colonization discussions and research in the description. The security modifier affects the security level of the system as a whole, creating either anarchy, low, medium, or high security. Negative numbers push the security towards an anarchy state, and positive numbers push it towards higher security. Security levels generally affect security ship response times, i.e., how easy it is to commit crimes, and may affect how often negative system states can occur like civil unrest and lockdown. Wealth is still under investigation, but it likely correlates with commodity prices in the system. Higher wealth seems to lead to a better buy and sell prices, as well as increased supply influenced by population levels. It may also be linked to the standard of living, which could impact happiness levels. Lower wealth may make the economy more susceptible to busts, while higher wealth could increase the likelihood of reaching a boom state. Tech level influences how many station services are active, and most likely works in combination with development level to improve outfitting and shipyard options. Standard of living is not entirely clear. It most likely affects happiness score, although happiness levels do not seem to be reporting properly currently. I suspect it will also influence how often negative states like outbreak, blight, and civil unrest occur. Development level affects shipyard and outfitting options. High levels should have more equipment stocked. There is also evidence of it affecting market supply levels. All facilities affect your system's population, even ones that don't show a slider. Small planetary settlements add a few hundred to 1,000-ish, while the larger starports and planetary ports can add 100,000 plus. Generally, you're going to want a mix of different facility types across your entire system, so that you're improving all the system modifiers somewhat. This is of course dependent on the number of build slots your system has available. You also want to make sure you don't mess with the port markets you're trying to set up. There are a few helpful tools already developed by the community to help plan out your colony and see which factors each facility will influence in your system. Links will be included in the description. If you remember way back from when you placed your starting primary port, the screen showed that upon completion you would be awarded a certain number of construction points. There are Tier 2 and Tier 3 construction points which correspond to Tier 2 and Tier 3 facilities, more or less. If your first port was an outpost, you earned 1 Tier 2 construction point. Coriolis or Asteroid Base awards 1 Tier 3 construction point, and the Orbis and Oculus award you a sense of accomplishment. The system map shows the currently earned construction points on the bottom. Most Tier 1 facilities don't require construction points and award Tier 2 points on completion. Tier 2 facilities consume Tier 2 construction points and award Tier 3 construction points. Tier 3 constructions are Orbis, Oculus, and the large planetary ports. They each require 6 Tier 3 construction points to place. There is a mechanic in place where after you construct 2 of any of the following, Coriolis, Asteroid, Orbis, Oculus, or large planetary port, the subsequent costs increase. The initial primary port doesn't count toward this 2-port total. Tier 2 spaceports construction point costs increase from 3 to 5, then to 7, and so on. Tier 3 space and planetary ports increase from 6 to 12, then to 18, and so on as well. If you are planning to build a lot of Tier 3 facilities, it's probably a better idea to build them first, so you get the benefits early without needing to build up a lot of construction points. When you are selecting a facility to build, if it is grayed out, that indicates you do not have enough construction points currently to place it. Orbital and planetary facilities are categorized into 3 tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 facilities are small and have minimal positive or negative effects on your colony. They require fewer commodities, and if they have a market, offer fewer goods for sale. However, they are essential for advancing to Tier 2, as they provide the construction points needed for Tier 2 facilities. Tier 2 facilities strike a balance, offering greater influence in larger markets, but at the cost of requiring more commodities than Tier 1. These facilities have a larger impact, but their resource demands are still manageable compared to Tier 3. Tier 3 facilities are the largest and most complex, contributing significantly to population growth and providing substantial modifiers for tech level, wealth, and other factors. They demand a large amount of commodities, typically 200,000 or more, necessitating careful planning and a significant time commitment. Orbital facilities are broken down into 3 types: starports, outposts, and installations. Starports have both Tier 2 and Tier 3 versions, with Coriolis and Asteroid Base being Tier 2 and the Orbis and Oculus Tier 3. All starports add a large amount of population, have a large effect on system modifiers, and have a default colony economy, with the exception of the Asteroid Base, which has an extraction economy. They have all landing pad sizes equipped, and generally better at shipyard and outfitting, provided your system has a high enough tech and development level, of course. Outposts are all Tier 1 facilities, and are the most common station around the galaxy. They tend to have smaller markets, less station services, and only support up to medium-sized landing pads. They are also the easiest orbital station to build as they require the least amount of commodities. They are broken into 6 types: commercial, industrial, criminal, civilian, scientific, and military. Commercial, criminal, and civilian have colony economy types. Industrial is industrial, scientific is high-tech, and military is military. They have modifiers that logically match their type. Military outposts offer increased security, scientific increased tech level, criminal decreased security and increased wealth, and so on. The third category, installations, have a lot of choices, including both Tier 1 and Tier 2 options. They don't have landing pads, but add gameplay opportunities like theft, crime, and defend or help pirate attacks. They are useful for moderate changes to the system modifiers, and when combined with planetary settlements can help influence markets of starports and outposts. Like outposts, their modifiers tend to reflect their name. Tier 1 installations are satellite, comm station, space farm, pirate base, mining outpost, and relay station. Tier 2 installations are military, security station, government, medical, research station, tourist, and spacebar. Each installation also has several variations to layout and look, although some are currently mislabeled and result in other station types. For instance, currently, the Angelia satellite variant is actually a scientific installation. A list on the screen shows the current corrections. These installations tend to have the same modifier influence as Tier 1 and Tier 2 outposts and starports, but at a much smaller commodity cost. Tier 2 installations only require around 10,000 commodities, as opposed to Tier 2 starports, which require 50,000 each. They are useful for cheaply improving system-wide stats, especially in system slots that can't have markets due to their location. Planetary facilities are also broken down into 3 types: planetary port, settlement, and hub. Planetary ports have both Tier 1 and Tier 3 facilities. Tier 1 are civilian, industrial, and scientific, which have an economy of colony, industrial, and high-tech respectively. They require about 40,000 commodities, have moderate modifiers, and add more population. Tier 3 planetary ports require around 216,000 commodities, but offer the biggest increases in tech level, wealth, standard of living, and development level, as well as the largest increase in population of all facilities. They're the closest things to cities we currently have. Settlements are your Odyssey on-foot settlements. They have a variety of economies and offer Tier 1 and Tier 2 versions. They are unique in that they have their own economy, but can also influence the economy of the system. They are agriculture, extraction, industrial, military, research, and tourism. As with the other facilities, their modifiers match their type. Agriculture improves standard of living, extraction increases wealth, industrial increases development level, military increases security, research increases both tech level and development level, and tourism increases wealth at the cost of security. Tier 1 settlements have both a small and a medium version, with medium doubling the system modifier for double the commodities. If you have the time, it's probably worth always building the medium-sized settlement, as they offer a greater benefit for a Tier 1 facility. Tier 2 settlements included all the research and tourism settlements, as well as the large versions of the other economies. The large versions offer high increases in their chosen modifiers, as well as being the only Tier 2 facility to reward 2 Tier 3 construction points on completion. They have relatively small commodity requirements, with small, medium, and large settlements needing about 2,800, 5,700, and 8,500 for each version. Lastly, we have the hub facilities, which are all Tier 2 surface constructions. They function in a similar manner to the orbital installations in that they have no landing pads, but have other functions specifically dealing with Horizon SRV missions. They are also currently the only facility type to offer a refinery economy influence. These different types are classified as extraction, civilian, exploration, outpost, scientific, military, refinery, high-tech, and industrial. They require under 10,000 commodities and offer significant upgrades in their respective categories. For example, the extraction hub awards high wealth at the cost of some standard of living, the scientific hub awards high tech level, and the refinery offers a moderate increase in tech, wealth, and development level at the cost of security and standard of living. Another thing to be aware of is that certain facilities have prerequisites. For instance, in order to build an orbital tourism installation, you need to construct a tourism planetary settlement somewhere in the system. And before you can place a tourism settlement, you need to construct an orbital satellite installation elsewhere. When selecting a facility to be placed, the details screen will indicate if there is a prerequisite before construction can happen. Now that you have your 37 orbital slots and 45 planetary facilities planned out, Now it's time to actually begin construction. Placing facilities is actually a pretty straightforward endeavor. Space-based facilities are placed using the System Map Architect mode. Orbital facility slots can be around stars, asteroid belts, planets, and some moons. Navigate to the spot you want to place an orbital facility, which is indicated by a plus symbol. Facilities are placed from the closest slot outward in order. Even if you select the third slot around a planet, it will be placed in slot 0. Currently, the 0 slot around a planet is the only slot that will have its economy influenced by facilities on that planet's surface. Once you pick the facility you want to build, an orbital construction station will arrive. Ferry commodities to the station using the same techniques as you used in your primary port. Different facilities will have new commodities that need to be delivered, so make sure you update your shopping list as needed. A lot of the commodities will be at the stations you have already been using, although some have more unique locations. For instance, emergency power cells are only produced in a 30 light-year radius around the Akhenaten system, so if you have a fleet carrier, it might be worth storing a few hundred so you don't have to make the journey for each build. As with your main station, it's worth keeping a running list of commodity locations and updating it as your builds require new commodities. It's important to know that once completed, only outposts and starports have landing pads. Orbital installations do not have landing pads and are mostly there to influence the system's security, wealth, tech levels, etc. Many of them do have gameplay loops like stealing cargo, gaining encoded mats, or protecting them from pirate attacks. Planetary installations are placed by flying to the planet's surface location and activating your ST Suite fire group. You can see a hologram of where your facility will be placed, move it around, rotate it, and then place it down. Once it is placed, you will need to fly to Supercruise, then back to the surface to begin delivering commodities. Surface construction sites have all landing pad sizes while they are under construction. Once completed, they will have a limited number of landing pad sizes, and in the case of installations, none at all, so don't be alarmed. The max landing pad size will be listed when placing the structure, although the sizes listed aren't currently all accurate. All planetary ports have large pads, and refer to the list on screen to see the max pad size for each settlement type. This information is also included in the DaftMav spreadsheet located in the description. Some quick tips on picking a location to place a planetary facility. Always check the planet or moon statistics. Does it have an atmosphere? Does it have high gravity? What's the rotation and orbital period? You might place a facility in the sunlight only to realize half the year it'll be in complete darkness. If a planet is tidally locked to the main star, the same side will always be lit. But a tidally locked moon will depend on its parent's body rotation and orbit time. An Earth-sized body with a large radius will have a much longer orbital glide time than a 500-kilometer radius small moon, so repeated commodity deliveries will take a lot longer. You can currently have up to 5 facilities under construction in each system you have colonized. Construction points are consumed when the facility is placed, and the rewarded points are earned when the construction is complete. Once you have 10 facilities completed in your system, you, the system architect, will get a discount in the shipyard and outfitting for that system. Finally, each completed facility can be renamed if you're not happy with the name generated automatically by the game, or you want to place your own stamp on the galaxy. In the system map, select the facility you want to rename and select Rename. For 5,000 ARCs per facility, you get the ability to name it what you want, within reason, an unlimited number of times. Just know that the cost is per facility, so it can get quite expensive if you want to rename each of your 37 constructs. There is also a way to pick a new randomly generated name. Select the refresh icon until you get something you like. You get only up to 5 of these random name changes per facility, so choose carefully. To wrap things up, colonizing a system in Elite Dangerous is no small feat. With the right approach, you can turn an uncharted space into a thriving empire. Remember, the key is careful planning, cargo management, and a lot of patience as you expand your colony. Don't hesitate to revisit the tips and tricks I've shared throughout this guide, and keep exploring the nuances of each system you encounter. As the beta progresses, I'll be sure to update you with new insights that come to light. Until then, grab your gear, keep your wits about you, and embark on your journey to become a master of the stars. As always, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Good luck out there, and may your colonies thrive. Thank you for watching.